So, good morning. My name is Jeff Shantz. I'm the Associate Director of Science Technology Services. We are the IT support team for the Faculty of Science. And this morning, I wanted to give you just a basic orientation to our exam scanning service so that you are all set to scan your exams with us. So we're going to cover, I'll give you an overview of the process at a high level. We'll talk about barcoding, why we use a barcoding process, and how you go about barcoding your exams. We'll talk about some issues to keep in mind when printing your exams, when running your exam on the day of, and then dropping off your exams, and then how to get your exam scans afterwards. And then finally, we'll just wrap up with a few things to keep in mind. And I've compiled some resources for Gradescope and for our exam scanning service. Science examination scanning, we launched it 5 years ago to help ease Gradescope adoption within the Faculty of Science. It's been growing year over year since that time, to the point where last year we scanned nearly 1 million pages with really no major errors, no missing pages that we weren't able to find. So we're pretty proud of our service. We're pretty proud of our turnaround times. For over 95% of our jobs, we have a same-day turnaround, usually within a few hours. Um, so yeah, we are constantly working to make this service better and to get your exams back to you faster. So at a high level, what you're going to do is typeset your exam as you normally would, except you'll leave 1 inch of space at the top of your exam. You then upload your exam to a tool we call the Preflight tool. So it's a web-based wizard that takes care of the barcoding for you. So if you tell it to generate 200 copies, it'll generate 200 copies of your exam with all of the pages barcoded. You then download that PDF, you print it off, you run your exam as usual, bring in your exams for scanning, and then we do all the scanning for you. If there's any missing pages that, maybe a scanner picks up 2 pages instead of one, we have to go back and find that missing page and rescan it. So we handle all of that for you, and then we will return your scanned PDFs to you securely via the OWL Dropbox. From there, you take them and you upload them to Gradescope, and you're all set to go. So our role in this process, we of course handle the intake of your exam boxes. We will cut the corners off of your exams to remove the staples so that we can pass them through the scanners. We then scan them with our 3 high-speed scanners. As I said, if there are any errors that we detect in the process, any pages that were missed somehow, we detect that and we rescan as needed. It's all transparent to you. You just get a nice scanned PDF bundle back at the end of it all. So, why do we enforce barcoding? Basically, to protect you at the end of the day. It's to prevent errors. When we cut the corners off of your exams, if we were to drop a stack of exams, it's not likely that your students are writing their name and student number on every single page of every single exam. So, if we dropped a stack with the corners cut off, we would have no way to put them back in order. Okay, so the barcoding process prevents that sort of scenario. When there's paper jams or misfeeds, as I say, sometimes the scanners will pick up 2 pages instead of one, and so only one of those pages ends up getting scanned. Those sorts of errors we need to be able to detect. So the barcoding handles all of that. It allows us to keep our pages in the correct order. If there are any duplicates, so if we've rescanned a stack of pages and now there's 10 duplicates in there, we're able to detect and automatically remove those. If any pages got rotated or flipped in the process, those are automatically corrected by our software as well. And then, as I say, if there were any missing pages, our software will flag that. We go back through the boxes, we look for those missing pages, and we rescan them for you. So at the end of the day, it's about preventing surprises at marking time. If we did not do all of this, and if, a couple of pages were missed during the scanning process, you would not discover that until you sat down to actually mark on gradescope.ca and you suddenly realize that, oh, pages 3, 4, and 5 are missing from this exam. So this process allows us to prevent those sorts of surprises at marking time. So the way it works is that, again, we have a web-based tool called the Preflight tool. You're going to upload your exam PDF to that tool. You're going to tell it how many copies of your exam you'd like to generate, and it will then generate that number of copies with a barcode on each page that will uniquely identify that exam and that page. So here's an example here from one of my courses last year. So this is saying that this is exam 1 of 165, page 1 of 16. Okay, so this barcode encodes all of that information along with something we call a batch ID that essentially uniquely identifies this particular batch of exams. So you then bring in your exams for scanning. We then run it through another tool that we've built called our post-flight tool, which will recognize all the barcodes on all the scanned pages, make sure that everything's in order, remove any duplicates, again, flag if there are any pages that are missing, and then it produces the final PDFs and a scan report that we return with your PDFs. How to barcode your exams. Again, you're going to just typeset your exam as usual, except you're going to leave 1 inch of space at the top of each page. You then upload to our pre-flight tool, run through the wizard. Once it is done barcoding your exams, you will get an email confirmation. You'll then go to our OWL site, Science Exam Scanning, and you'll find your barcoded exams within the OWL Dropbox there. So we do require that all material that you want to have scanned, that it is barcoded. The one exception, if you are using Gradescope for bubble sheets, you will need to use their bubble sheet template. I've got the link in the slide deck here. We do not strictly enforce that you have to barcode those, but we do still recommend it. The reason being that if you barcode those pages, we are then, after we scan them, we're able to run them through our software as we would your regular exam pages. So if any of those pages were flipped or rotated, our software would automatically correct those. If you don't barcode them, then we just return them exactly as they're scanned. So if some are upside down, they're going to be returned that way. So we do still recommend it, but we don't strictly enforce that. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick demo of our pre-flight tool. So it's at preflight.sci.uwo.ca. So it's going to ask you, after you log in, it will ask you for some basic information, your exam date, if you're going to be printing your exams double-sided or single-sided. Basically, this is just saying, please try and avoid having things like tables and figures and sample code, basically any sort of reference material. Ideally, you would separate that from your main exam. That way, we're not scanning as many pages for you. So if you're from a faculty that is being billed per page, obviously that's going to be cheaper for you if you're just scanning response pages rather than tables and figures and whatnot. And it also makes it faster for us to return your exam jobs because we would be scanning fewer pages. So we just check these boxes. If you want, it can automatically add extra barcoded pages. So if you want to provide some extra space for your students to write their answers, you could say, okay, yep, please put 2 blank pages per exam, per copy, I should say. Alternatively, if you want, you can just add those blank pages directly to your exam bundle and then upload that. Okay, so we go next, and now it's going to ask you to upload your exam files. So I'll select one of my practice finals from last year. We'll say I want to generate 100 copies of that. I enter my course section, my exam code. If I had multiple versions of my exam, I can upload those. Again, I would just specify another course section and exam code for those. What we also do recommend is that you create a separate bundle for accommodated exams. Okay, so most of you are going to have students writing with examination services for accommodated exams. So I recommend creating a separate bundle for them. If it's the same exam, then you would just select the same file again and say maybe, okay, I've got 20 students writing with them, course section 001, and maybe I'll just give that a different exam code just to flag that it is an accommodated exams bundle. Okay, so we recommend doing that. Make sure you have enough exams for them so that they don't have to photocopy exams, they are able to print them. Again, these are barcoded exams with unique barcodes on every page, so they have to be printed and not photocopied. Okay, so let's just, to make this a little bit faster, we'll just say 25 copies. And then at the end, it's going to ask you, how do you want to package up your barcoded exams? You can have it all in one PDF. So if you're printing it yourself, most people choose that option. If you are printing it through graphic services, at least 5 years ago when I asked them about this, they told me that they preferred PDFs that had about 500 pages each in them. So if you select this option, it will break up your barcoded PDFs into chunks of about 500 pages each. Okay, and then for whatever reason, if you wanted one exam copy per PDF, so if you asked for 200 copies, it would then provide you with 200 PDFs. So if you want that, that option is available as well. I'm just going to choose a single PDF for now. We'll click Finish. My exam gets uploaded, and then I just need to wait for an email. So within a minute or so, I will get an email. You can see that it just gives me some instructions on how to join the OWL site and get my exam. Bottom line is I'm going to go to the Science Exam Scanning OWL site. If I'm not already a member of that, I will join that site. Again, the instructions are in that email. And then I will see my barcoded exams right here. Okay, so I download those. So you can now see that I have 375 pages in this because I generated 25 copies of this exam. And you can see that each page has been uniquely barcoded. So this is exam 2, page 1, exam 2, page 2, and so on. And this barcode is encoding that information. Once you have that bundle created, the important thing to remember is that you need to, of course, print and not photocopy your barcoded exams. Again, we're putting unique barcodes on every single page. If you photocopy the exams, you are, of course, destroying the uniqueness of those barcodes, which is going to cause problems for us when we then try to run your scans through our post-flight tool, and it basically undermines the whole point of this, right? So please print your exams, don't photocopy them. If you're printing with graphic services, as I said, they prefer PDFs with about 500 pages in each of them. So you just select that particular option at the end of the pre-flight tool. People often will email me and say, but I just generated 200 copies of my exam. I need 25 more. What do I do? You just rerun it. Just rerun it through the pre-flight tool, generate some more copies. Bottom line is, do not photocopy your exams. And then, as I say, don't forget about accommodated exams. You always want to make sure you generate a separate bundle for them with a sufficient number of copies. I don't want to denigrate anyone over there. They do great work. They're very busy, but we do often have issues where they will photocopy exams and not print them. So we just ask that you create a separate bundle that has enough exams for the number of students that are going to be writing with them. You provide that PDF to them, and then when you're filling out the form to set up your exam with them online, just put in some instructions to their staff to not photocopy exams, to print them. Now, on the day of when you are administering your exam, we would ask that you remind your students about the barcodes. Most people will just put a little message on their exam saying, don't write near or don't tamper with the barcodes. Of course, when they write on the barcodes, it interferes with our ability to automatically recognize them. And that, of course, is going to delay the return of your exam. So we ask that you just remind them not to touch them. Some people put a little note on their exam. Some people threaten them with a penalty. We're not going to weigh in on that issue, but we do just ask that you please remind them.
Jeff, can I interject with a question here?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we've got 100 exams coming out, so a 500-page document. How does graphic services know where to insert the staples?
They handle that. If your exam has, say, 20 pages in it, they are able to tell their equipment to staple every 20 pages. I've never heard of any issues with that.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that that's just seamless. They take care of that. You don't have to worry about it. Any other questions?
I will ask one then. How about mixed modality exams? So one where we have some bubble sheet to start and then some written answers after.
Sure. So Gradescope does not support that. What you have to do in Gradescope is just basically create two different exams. So first off, I should mention, any of you can go to gradescope.ca. You can log in, you can create any sort of test courses you like. So please feel free if you want to play around with it and get to know the tool. I would encourage you to do that. So if I have a mixed modality exam, I would go to assignments. I would create an assignment for my multiple choice section. It's going to be bubble sheet. Okay, so this will be, final exam, multiple choice. So I create that one, and I would specify my answer key so that it can automatically do my marking for me. Okay, I would then go back, and so that's the section I just created. I would then go back and create another assignment, exam quiz, and this would be final exam written. I would select my PDF and upload that. A full tutorial on Gradescope is beyond the scope of today's session, but I then have to put a region around their name. And here I have student number, but nowadays you'll be working with usernames. So your exam should have a space for the student's name and username. These regions allow Gradescope to automatically associate exam submissions with students in your class roster. I then have to go through this. I have to define my questions. So I would go down and I would essentially just put a region around each of these answers. And that then tells Gradescope where all of your written questions are. You save your outline. Again, I'm not going to go into a full tutorial on this. I do have a link to all sorts of resources for learning about Gradescope at the end of this presentation. But that's the answer to your question. You would create them as two separate exams, essentially, and then upload two separate exam PDFs. So when you have bubble sheets and a written exam, we will provide you with all of the bubble sheets in one PDF and then your written exams in another PDF. So you'll be able to upload those separately.
So that raises another part of this, versions. So we have 900 plus students in this particular course. So we are definitely going to have versions. And we are going to mix up what they're getting in each room so that they're not sitting next to somebody working on the same version. So,
Right.
So best recommendations?
Yeah. So when you're running through the pre-flight tool, you're going to upload all of your different versions with different exam codes. So 001, 002, as many as you like.
Right.
And each of those is going to have the barcodes will encode a different batch ID. So when we then scan your exams back and we generate your PDFs, all of the version 001 will be in one PDF. All of the version 002 will be in another PDF and so on. And so you will have separate PDF bundles for each version that you will then be able to upload to Gradescope.
So if I have uploaded here, let's say 3 versions,
Yep.
when your pre-flight tool is done, do I get one massive PDF file that I'm meant to print? Okay, I get
No.
3 different PDF
Yes.
files, and it's up to me to mix and match appropriately.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll get a PDF bundle with all of the 001, another PDF bundle with all the 002, and so on. And so then, yeah, as you say, you can mix and match as you like. And then once everything is scanned, we then return your scans to you with all of the 001s together, all of the 002s, and so on.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I'll ask then is about the Gradescope has a particular template that it uses for the bubble sheets. It has the room sufficient to put the pre-flight stuff at the top.
It does overlap a tiny bit. I will concede that, but it has never interfered with anything.
Okay.
So you can try it out if you like to see. It does overlap with the top right of the name field, but it's never really been an issue.
Okay.
If you're just doing a straight up multiple choice exam and you just need bubble sheets, do you have to barcode the bubble sheets or upload your exams through here? Can I just get them printed?
You can. A lot of people do that. Again, it's up to you. So as I say, the benefit of barcoding the bubble sheets is that if pages were to be flipped or rotated, our software would automatically handle that for you. But if you have no problem with having to maybe rotate a page or two, I think Gradescope may even do it automatically. So no, we do not strictly require bubble sheets to be barcoded. That is not the case, however, for written exams. We do take a harder line on that.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. It's my first time. So if I just want to print out the exam part, those don't need to be barcoded either, correct? Because they won't be graded. Only the bubble sheet will be getting graded.
Right, exactly. Yep. Only things that
Okay. Thank you.
so you only strictly need to barcode things that would have student responses on them. So in terms of written exams, I should say, for bubble sheets, no, you don't need to, technically you don't need to barcode anything, whether it's the exam booklet or the bubble sheets. Okay, so as I mentioned, the pre-flight tool does allow you to generate some extra blank pages that are barcoded in each exam copy so that your students have extra spaces for their responses. Alternatively, when you're typesetting your exam, you can just add a few extra blank pages and upload that PDF to the pre-flight tool. So that would be the recommended and, of course, supported way to provide students with extra space for responses. We do understand, though, that sometimes things come up in an exam where you have to act fast, you're thinking on your feet, you just quickly give someone a blank page, and of course, now we have a page that's not barcoded. So we will still scan that for you, not to worry. But in that case, we would recommend have the student write their name, their student number, ideally also the exam number and the page number. Okay, so this is exam 1 of 165. This is page 1 of 16. So ideally they're writing their name, student number, and then exam 1, page 1. Okay, that way later on you're able to associate it with the right exam. When your students are finished writing their exams, we ask that you count the exams that you're dropping off and let the front desk know when you're dropping off your exams, what that count is. Having an accurate count allows us to verify that we have indeed scanned all of your exams, that we're not missing any. So we would ask that you just take a few minutes with your TAs, quickly count the exams, and then bring them in. So, in terms of dropping off your exams, we are located in Western Science Center, room 140. So we're right when you come in the front entrance across from the Physics and Astronomy building. We are the first room on the left, and we are marked Science Technology Services. We're open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We do always accept drop-ins. So, within those hours, if you just show up and you bring your exams, we will, of course, scan them for you. But we do prioritize scheduled jobs. So, we would ask that, or we would recommend that you schedule your scans in advance by opening a ticket in our ticketing system here. It just asks you for some basic details, your course subject, course code, how many exams you anticipate having, how many pages per exam you anticipate having. You might not have written your exam yet, that's fine. Just sort of give us a rough idea of, okay, I'm probably going to have about 200 exams and I'm thinking maybe about 20 pages per exam. Just to give us a rough idea of the size of the job to expect, when you're going to be dropping it off, what time-ish, and then whether or not there are any individuals other than yourself that are authorized to pick up the exam. Okay, so again, not strictly required. If you are dropping in, we will still make you fill out that form when you arrive, but we will, of course, accept drop-ins, but we do prioritize those that have scheduled in advance. Just helps us plan our staffing levels and ensure that we're returning exams as quickly as possible. Now, we understand that, some people just want to bring in a grocery bag full of exams. The problem is that we have very limited storage space, so we really do need to be able to stack boxes. So we would ask that you please try to bring your exams in a box with a lid if you can. Some people, if they just have like a few, like 20 quizzes or something like that, they'll bring them just in campus mail envelopes. That's fine too. We would just ask that you try to avoid bringing them in grocery bags or certainly not bringing them loose leaf, because we need to be able to maintain some order within our exam storage room. When you show up with your exams, we also ask that you keep your accommodated exams separate from the regular exams. Again, not trying to denigrate anyone with exam services. They do great work, but they're busy and we do often have issues where they are photocopying and not printing exams. So to help us just keep those problems isolated just to that small bundle, we ask that you keep those accommodated exams separate from the regular exams when you're dropping off, and we will track them under a separate ticket. Now, some people sometimes ask us about evening and weekend scanning. Our official policy is that we don't typically offer it. In exceptional cases, we ask that you give us as much notice as possible, ideally 3 or more weeks. That will allow me to try and line up some staff to come in after hours and meet you, take in your exam boxes, and then, of course, do the scanning. In order to cover the cost of those staff, we do charge $40 an hour for weekend or evening scanning. Some people, will sometimes request this if they have, say, an exam in the last slot. So the last day, the last slot of the final exam period. It's not really required because you do have, I think, until a week into the second term to submit your mark. But nevertheless, if you absolutely feel you need evening or weekend scanning, please let us know well in advance, and I will do my best to line up staff for you. But know that there will be an extra charge for that. So in terms of the scanning process, what we scan, letter and legal size paper. Our scanners are not capable of doing other sizes like tabloid, for example. So we scan letter and legal size exams. We scan bubble sheets. We don't scan other page sizes. We don't do bound booklets. And we generally do not scan exams that appear to be blank because it's just a waste. It's wear and tear on our scanners. And if you are paying per page, you obviously want to minimize the amount of pages that are being scanned. Again, we cut the corners off your exams to remove the staples. So we would encourage you to encourage your students not to write near those stapled corners. We are using, so it's basically something like this. Okay, so we are cutting the corners off of big stacks at a time. We are not scrutinizing each individual exam to see, oh, did someone write near the corner? We're just going to lop off the corners. And if someone has written near a corner, that content will be lost. So just encourage them not to write near the corners. In terms of our unbarcoded material policy, so we do require that things are barcoded, but as a general rule, if you show up with an exam box, we will scan anything that's in that box, whether or not it's barcoded. Anything that is unbarcoded will be returned in a single PDF, unbarcoded.pdf. We don't make any guarantees about whether there are missing pages in that file, whether there are duplicates. We don't guarantee the ordering. We're just making a best effort attempt. Okay, we scanned these for you. They weren't barcoded. Here's all of this material in this file. If you show up with a significant amount of material, so if you come in with an entire exam that is not barcoded, we will return it unscanned. Okay, but if it's just, some extra response pages here and there, some nominal roles, whatever, we do scan those and include them for you. Now, once the scanning process is done and we have returned your exams to you, you will receive an email from our ticketing system letting you know and giving you instructions on how to retrieve your exams. But the bottom line is you will find them again in the OWL Dropbox. So you will find them in a folder that has the same name as the ticket number that got opened to track your job. And you will then find all of your scanned PDFs within there. We divide them into chunks that are about 100 megabytes each, which is supported by Gradescope. They don't support massive files that are, a gigabyte in size each. So we do break them up into chunks. But then in Gradescope, when I go into upload, I go to manage scans, and I can select as many PDFs as I like. So I would just take all of the PDFs that had been returned to me via the OWL Dropbox, and I can then begin marking them. Okay, I see Deb has a question. Go ahead, Deb.
Thanks. I just wanted to go back to the comment you made in regard to non-barcoded bubble sheets.
Yes.
So we do have some larger first and second year courses that sometimes don't barcode their bubble sheets because it is all multiple choice answers. So if I'm correct in understanding, it's that these courses Basically, you're just doing the scanning function. There is no, because sometimes they'll be like, I'm missing an exam, a bubble sheet. There is no count in them. There is no really audit done. It's just a scanning function. But if they're
Right.
barcoded, then you have the audit and the count and the ordering and etc.
Sort of.
Okay.
So yes, you're right. We're in that case that our function is just to scan them. We're not doing any validation. We're not doing any correction of rotated or flipped pages. With a 2-page bubble sheet, we're not really able to say, is it missing or not, right? When you have, say, a 10-page exam, and there are a couple of pages missing from that exam, maybe 2 pages got picked up by the scanner instead of 1. The rest of the pages will be present in our scans. And so our software is able to say, oh, here's an exam that has pages 1, 2, 3, and 4, but it's missing 5 and 6. And we then know, okay, we got to go back, find those pages and rescan them. If an entire exam is missing, we don't have a way of detecting that. That's why we rely on an accurate count from the instructor. And that's why we recommend, before you bring your exams in, don't just estimate. Don't tell us, oh, it's about 300. Actually count the exams so that we are then able to validate afterwards. Okay, you told us you brought in 305 exams. Yep, we've got 305 exams scanned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was more sometimes when they send in the bubble sheets that aren't scanned, yet they put them in order to match them to a nominal roll. And if they get something back, then they're like, you know what, we're looking for, the fourth one down on the nominal, which is ID, XYZ. So it doesn't matter, because if they're not barcoded, it doesn't matter what order they get them back in, because the barcoding is part of that audit process.
Yes, and we also do not guarantee that they're going to get them back in the order that they've delivered them in.
Okay.
Just because things happen during the scanning process, things might get out of order. So they will not necessarily receive those in the same order that they delivered them in.
Okay, great.
So, getting back to retrieving your PDFs, you're going to find your exams in the OWL Dropbox. You download your PDFs and you upload them then to Gradescope. We do ask that you try and pick up your boxes in a timely manner. We have a very limited amount of storage space. Some people will leave their exam boxes for 4 months with us. Please don't do that. Especially during final exam periods, our storage room fills up very quickly. So we would ask that you try and pick them up in a reasonably timely manner. So just to recap things here, things to remember. Again, you're typesetting your exam. You're leaving 1 inch of space at the top of each page. If you want to provide extra space for responses, either insert some extra blank pages into your exam PDFs or tell the Preflight tool to do so. You're going to barcode your exams, and again, not required but recommended, your bubble sheets using the Preflight tool. Remembering to create a separate bundle for accommodated exams and instructing them to print and not photocopy. And then you're going to, of course, retrieve your barcoded exams from the Science Exam Scanning OWL site. This will, of course, be changing over the course of this year since OWL Sakai is being retired. We will have a new site from which you will be retrieving all of your barcoded exams and your scans. More information on that will come out later in the year, but for now, it's OWL. You'll then print and not photocopy your exams. Ideally, you'll schedule your scan job in advance by opening a ticket with us. And then, of course, instruct your students not to tamper with the barcodes or write near the stapled corners, because those are going to be cut off. You bring in your exams to WSC 140, again, ideally in a lidded box or a campus mail envelope. Let the front desk know when you arrive what your accurate exam count is so that we're able to validate that we have scanned all of your exams. Keep your accommodated exams separate from your regular exams. And we just ask that if you have told us that you're coming in at 9:30 on a given day, particularly in the final exam periods, we will schedule staff that will be there on demand, because our scanning staff are students as well. During the final exam periods, we want to provide them with the flexibility to be able to come and go as they please and to be able to work or not work as much as they want so that they themselves can study. So what we do during the final exam period is switch to an on-demand model where they sign up to come in and scan your exams. So if you've told us you're coming in on December 20th at 9:30 in the morning, we might have 2 or 3 people scheduled to come there. If you don't show up, they've now come in for no reason, and they're just sitting around waiting, not sure if you're going to arrive or not. So we just ask that you notify us if you're not able to make your scheduled drop off so that we know to send them back home. And then, of course, as I say, ideally, please try and pick up your exam boxes in a prompt manner. Gradescope has some excellent resources online. They've created all sorts of videos on how to grade with their service, how to get set up. I recommend checking out the AI assisted grading. It's a really neat feature that may save you a lot of time. I'll just give you a quick example of where I've used that in the past. Here's an example where, okay, it's a short answer question. The students provide a fairly brief response. And what Gradescope allows you to do is after you've uploaded all of your scans, you can say, okay, for this question, I want to use AI assisted grading. And what it'll have you do then is drag all of the questions from all the students into different buckets. So I will quickly go through all the questions. I'll say, okay, yeah, that looks right. I'm going to drag that into the correct bucket. Oh, that one, they made this particular error. So I'm going to drag that into another bucket, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to quickly go through my exams, sort them all into different buckets. And I can then say, okay, I've got 100 exams in this one bucket that have the correct answer. So I will mark one of the exams, one of the questions, I should say, in that bucket. I will give them full marks. I'll put a comment on it that says, well done. And that will then be applied to all 100 of the correct answers in that bucket. So I've just marked 100 questions in one fell swoop. And then if I have another bucket where they've made, I don't know, some minor error, I'll maybe take off 1 mark from one of the questions in that bucket and I'll leave a comment saying what they did wrong. And now I've marked all of the questions in that bucket. They all get that mark taken off. They all get that 1 comment. Okay, so I do recommend checking this out. You may or may not find it useful. I found it very useful. It saved a lot of time. Yes, there's some upfront expenditure in terms of sorting the exams into buckets, but once you've got them sorted into buckets, it makes it ridiculously fast to then mark your questions and to give the students targeted feedback as to what they did wrong without having to write the same thing over and over and over again on each individual exam booklet. So really cool feature. Recommend checking that out. So do check out the Gradescope videos. There's a lot of good stuff there. Again, if you're going to be running bubble sheets with them, you will need to use their bubble sheet template. So make sure you have that. If you need support with Gradescope, we're not really the team to do it. What we recommend is that you reach out to help@gradescope.com. Historically, they have been excellent. They're very responsive. They've been very helpful in the past when we've had to contact them. So I would recommend them as your first point of contact for Gradescope support. The WTS help desk, Gradescope is now a supported tool centrally. So you can also open a ticket with them and they will help you as well. On the science exam scanning side of things, I've got some links here to our pre-flight tool, to our OWL site, and to our ticketing system to schedule your exam drop-offs. And then if at any time you need any support, if you have any questions or anything, you can open a ticket with us and we will be more than happy to help. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
We use your pre-flight tool to do this, and that helps you kind of keep all the exams together and stuff like that and manage our different variations and all the rest of it. But ultimately, it's Gradescope and its processing that's we'll have to create some sort of structure at the top there so it gets it to the right student in the end.
Yeah, so after I've uploaded all my PDF files, it will then take me to this manage submissions page. It is then going to try and automatically match to a student in your course roster. If it's able to do that, great. And in most cases, it is. In about maybe 20% of the cases, it's not able to automatically do that matching. And you will then have to select the student from a list of students.
I'm going to have to go in and have a look at Gradescope as to, in Brightspace, I've noticed that we don't get the student number. So
Right.
what's going on when they've linked one of these things to that?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
even use student numbers anymore. It's just student IDs. Like
yes,
their
and that's
email.
okay. Gradescope will handle that as well. It doesn't care what the ID is.
Okay.
When you're importing a class roster from Brightspace, the students will be imported with a name, and their ID will actually be their username instead of their student number. So I've actually been misspeaking. That's old information. It does get imported with the username. So on your exam, when you are creating an ID region, you would put this around the username, not around a student number.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. And at any time, if you have any questions, if you encounter something that we did not cover in this presentation, feel free to reach out and we're happy to help.